This is a special English-speaking edition of the Cultuurpers podcast. Our special reporter Alessia De Santis from Italy is on a quest to find out more about what makes the Dutch art scene special. This episode she takes us to Rugoort, near Amsterdam, and Oost-West, in the Dutch city of Amersfoort, to meet artists who find new ways of producing and presenting their work. Is this the way forward for the arts?
What is an artistic space? It sounds like a simple question, and for a long time, I would have answered it without thinking twice. A museum, a gallery, an exhibition. But the more I sat with it, and the more that answer started to feel incomplete. Think about what actually happens in a museum. Art is there, but is not being made. Is being displayed behind a glass on white walls in silence. To get in, you need money, you need time, and whether we admit it or not, you need to feel like you belong there. Once inside, everything is regulated. How close you can get, how long you can stay, what you can do with your body. You look, you don't touch. You definitely don't make anything. So maybe art needs to leave the building. I kept thinking about this idea as I visited two very different places in the Netherlands. Places where I felt art and life are not separated. Where the question of what an artistic space is get answered not by a definition, but by experience. The first is Rijgaard, just outside Amsterdam. The second is Oost-West in Amersfoort. And between the two, I think I found my answer. Let me start with Rijgaard, because it's hard to describe it without sounding like you are making it up. It starts with the drive there. You leave Amsterdam center, you pass the port, oil tanks, containers, ships, cranes, and all the grey machinery of industrial logistics. And then, suddenly, there it is. A cluster of small houses surrounded by sculptures, paintings, trees, flowers, and little lakes and animals wandering freely. Art is everywhere, and so it's nature. It generally feels like stepping into a different dimension or in a fairy tale. At the center of the village stands a deconsecrated Gothic church. The stained glass windows are original. They've been there for centuries. But the interior walls have recently been repainted by artists. The combination is striking, ancient and new, sacred and irreverent, all at once. Rijgaard has been there, in one form or another, since the 11th century. It was originally an island, and in the 19th century it stopped being one, absorbed into the expanding mainland. In the 60s, a group of artists squatted the village and never really left. For years, people lived there, farmers first, then artists, and both of them together. Now, living here permanently is no longer allowed, but the community is very much alive. When I visited for the second time, I met Roman. Roman grew up in Rijgaard, and by coincidence, we were born exactly 10 days apart. Same year, same month, completely different words. He walked me through the whole place, and the difference between my first visit and this one was enormous. He gave me a full tour of the place, and through his eyes, I began to really see its soul.
Also want a cup?
After drinking a cappuccino in the main cafe in Rijgaard, Roman and I spoke about what growing up in Rijgaard looks like, because I was really fascinated by the idea of being so free as a child.
We're really special from Rijgaard.
Yeah,
The amount of freedom it gives us, like,
I can imagine. It's Montessori education, kind of.
but times 10.
like quadratic. The
Almost sometimes a bit. Sometimes.
of in the daytime it's fine. But let's say you have a big festival and it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And then you see some little kids walking around looking for their parents. Like, oh my god, this is lovely.
I have to say, I still find it really fascinating and I am a little bit jealous. Anyways, then we moved to the former house, now atelier, that belongs to Roman's family since his grandfather.
So this is my family's cottage.
Wow. And now, did they end up here? Like you mentioned that your grandfather was friend with the people that squatted the place?
Yes. Yeah, he was in their friend group or whatever. And when my grandfather, he actually lived here in Rafor at that time, like the 70s mainly, with when his kids with my grandmother for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually removed a lot of stuff because this was like the place where he was drawing.
Wow.
Now he moved the stuff. So
But is he an artist? Yeah, okay, it makes sense.
for me, it's a bit different than most people in Rapos
Okay.
because I was a little bit like grown up in this place. For most people here, they always had to do some chores, be active, contribute. And for me, because I was basically raised here, it came more like
So you're like the third generation because it's your grandfather, your parents, and then you. So you're really, wow.
so everybody in the village knows me. I'm a bit like privileged Nepo baby of rapper. Which I really enjoy.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's a really nice family to have.
So growing up there, Roman experienced different phases of Reichard. And while talking with his aunt, they told me that this land should have been bought by the Americans to produce oil. But in the end, they did not buy it. So for this reason, a lot of farmers left Reichard in the first place. But others, the one who refused to leave and remained there, they started living with artists.
But anyway, they were already, those farmers that were living on this island, they were already...
Bought out.
They were bought out, but half of them didn't want to leave, and half of them did leave. So the half of the houses were empty, and then this artist group came in.
In the 70s. These 60s, okay.
And then they first lived together.
Yeah, no. Actually, I still remember the farmer who was here. When I was a kid, we used to be in that house over there.
Wow.
And we were walking in the fields here, and we were not allowed to touch the crops because then the farmer got angry.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was I think one of the last guys that was still here.
Really?
Yeah.
But of course, not everything is idyllic as it sounds. And there are also debates and fights because people have different ideas.
And really close. You could say we're also really divided in Rafford. So we have actual like north, south, east, west, center, and there's politics. Some groups go not too well with other groups.
Okay.
There are some cross interrelations between the groups, but it's really separate also. And I really like it also because that side will take that part of the festival. That side will do something completely different. But at the end, we're all working together, even though...
Yeah, there are different ideas maybe on some things.
Yeah.
But these ideas about how to manage the space or...
It's because most of them people here are artists. They have something they want to show or tell.
Exhibit, yeah.
Yeah. And then a lot of different backgrounds also and little subcultures. So somebody might only be into the smells.
Okay.
Like Inde, you see? He's a smell freak. everything with smells, lights, perfumes, and somebody else will only do projections and be crazy about projections. And then other side, somebody only sculptures.
Okay.
And then there's some guy who only likes to do fucking crazy hard music and
Okay.
take drugs and so the it's so dynamic with the different types of artists.
Yeah, of course.
That it all really nicely blends into some huge art
Yeah.
work.
But I do think that also the conflicts make Reichardt what philosopher Hannah Arendt would define as space of appearance, a meaningful space that is not defined by its walls or its address, but by what happens inside it. People coming together to create something new. Not to consume, not to observe, but to actually make. That, Arendt suggests, is where freedom lives. I was really surprised when I found out that a place like Reichardt is not actually protected by the state, but is always under threat. At the moment, they have a concession for another 25 years, and then we don't know what is going to happen to this place. Nowadays, Reichardt is not alone. Across the Netherlands, other communities have grown around the same idea that art is not something you go to see, but something you live with. One of them is Oost-West in Amersfoort. I arrived at Oost-West without any clear plan or appointment. I just showed up. And almost immediately, I met Rob, one of its founders, who was happy to stop and talk. That, he told me, is exactly the point. Oost-West is designed to be open, not just during events or scheduled hours, but open to whoever walks in, for whatever reason. You can come for a workshop, for an exhibition opening, or simply, as I did, because you were curious and the door was unlocked. All of these are equally valid reasons to be there. Oost-West was born from the same need that brought Reichardt into existence. The need to create, not to consume, and not alone.
We started almost 5 years ago when we realized this was at the end of the pandemic, and we realized that there's a lot of places where our friends, our creative friends and everything, we come together, but mostly they are connected with alcohol, so they're barred. And we realized that the combination between alcohol and making big plans, and also not only making the big plans but also pushing through, is sometimes helpful, but if it's structural, it kind of it obstructs the process. So we thought of so what would happen if we have a space that's just the space that is just for creativity, where you can walk in, but you don't necessarily have to buy a drink or something, but where you can just come in and have the space, have creativity to fill the space, and what happens when you orient from that perspective. And that basically, got completely out of hand.
Something I haven't said yet is that Oost-West is located in Amersfoort's industrial area. And I was really curious to find out if this was more an advantage or a disadvantage.
So logically, in retrospect, logically, we started looking at industrial areas, and here we are, at the Helium Wave, which is right at the end of the industrial area called the Isselt, which means there's no one close. So that was a big, important thing for us. So I think the first thing we did was just host a party in in a rave. It was the first big rave after Corona. So just to see what would happen. We have friends with the sound system, so just play it all night, I think it was 7 o'clock when we turned the music down ourselves, and then no one had come out. There were a lot of people, but nobody complained. So we realized, okay, this is important. This is a spot for us, because we won't have this creativity, this 24/7 creativity. That means that if you feel inspired, then it's a Tuesday night at 3 a.m. Then still you can blast those beats, or you can, if you wanna put your saw into something, that's possible. And I think that's important.
After this conversation, we started visiting Ost-West, and I finally saw the creative ateliers, where artists work independently, but never completely alone.
And started kind of like buying these kind of things, the set containers, and then we started building spaces ourselves. So that's already one. Here's the workshop space that we're going to build. And then apart from that, there's like music studios, there's textile, clothing. Upstairs we have all the painters and everything. These are music studios. This is a video editing. Then here's another music studio. She does porcelain and also textile stuff. So this whole thing we built ourselves.
Wow.
So yeah, that was quite a thing. These go like 9.5 meters into the ground. So believe me, I'm an anthropologist. Like I don't know nothing about this.
I'm impressed.
To have to do these days, like obviously we got a company to do.
Yeah, of course, but still.
These reports and no, that's a nightmare. But then upstairs we have more of the. It's a completely different atmosphere because of the light here. So here we have there's a daylight studio, so photography. There's about painters.
During the tour, some artists were actively working in their studios, and they were happy to stop and talk. That's how I ended up in a conversation with Luis, whose work immediately reminded me of Piero Manzoni, an Italian artist from the 60s known for pushing the boundaries of what art could be. I told him that, and we just started talking.
Hi, I'm Alessia. I'm doing a little tour of the place, so.
Wow, this is so Fontana. No Fontana. Manzoni. Do you know him?
It's so Manzoni.
In the Stedelijk Museum in Amsterdam. Yeah, you remind me of it as well, yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know if it's that the same technique, but I don't know. I think that moment captures something essential about what Ost-West is for. Not a planned interview, not a guided visit, just two people, an open door, and a conversation that neither of us expected. Luis told me that for him, this kind of encounter is one of the things that he values most about working there. Being in his house alone, he said, could never give him that. After the studios, I went back to Rob. 5 years have passed since Ost-West first opened, and I wanted to know what he sees now when he looks at what they have built.
Every time I'm sort of reminded of, oh yeah, so this is the next step or something. Like when I look at these, it's like, okay, yeah, I definitely sort of need to bring my vacuum cleaner. But on the other hand, I'm also thinking, oh my God, but it's so interesting to look at them from here, because before we were not seeing it, and now we built something from which you can see it. So we're really redefining sort of what it is that's going on here, less and less of the original sort of factory you're seeing, but still it's there, but it's just given a completely different dynamic.
I came to both of these places with a question. What is an artistic space? And I think the answer I found is simpler than I expected. It is not about the building or the collection or the program. It is about what is allowed to happen inside. Artists want to be together. Not just to work side by side, but to inspire each other, to stumble into each other's studios, to have unexpected conversations with strangers who just walked in. And it turns out that this need, the need to create in community rather than in isolation, it's also something that people outside the art world are hungry for. Reichardt and Ost-West are not closed circles. They are open spaces where the boundary between making art and simply living or being becomes very thin. That, I think, is what makes them more than artistic spaces. They are spaces where art and life have merged so completely that you stop being able to tell the difference. In a world where so much of our relationship with art is mediated by glass, by ticket prices, by white walls, and enforced silence, that feels like something worth talking about.
Thank you for listening to this special edition of the Cultuurpers podcast. If you like our work, you can make a donation. See cultuurpers.nl/doneren.